everybody. Welcome to the latest Female Film Critics panel. And this is our 24th episode of Female Film Critics panel. We've been doing it for 2 years, which is just so amazing to me. So exciting. And I'm film critic Rachel Wagner, and I have a great panel with me today. We have first Courtney Young is here.
Hey guys.
And then we have Poppy from Confessions of a Closet Romantic here.
Hello, everyone.
And we have Kate McCrea here.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
Yes, thank you to each of you for coming on and sharing your perspective. I really, really appreciate it. And what we like to do is give you each a chance to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about the content that you make, where you write or where you post or what you do. And it's a lot of fun. And we'll start with Courtney. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey guys, this is Courtney. You can find me at Filmvibes on Twitter. I have been running onthescreenreviews.com since 2012, and I'm a huge fan of the Alien franchise and an all-around movie nerd.
Very good. Poppy, what about you?
I am a writer and I am a podcaster since 2020 of the Confessions of a Closet Romantic podcast, which is a podcast where I kind of look at romantic TV shows, movies, and books, the intersection of them according to a theme each episode. And I have had a blast, y'all. I have just been having the best time. So I'm really happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you. And Kate, what about you?
Hi, so I'm a writer and I'm kind of in film school. So talking about films and what makes them happen is kind of like my passion, really. So I just started doing a review called Kate's Reviews, and a magazine or a website picked up my reviews on the Real Housewives and asked if I would come work for them as a reviewer.
Oh,
and that worked out. And I worked for them from 2015 to 2020. They shut down during the pandemic, unfortunately. So I've been kind of freelancing ever since at Kate Reviews and stuff. So
that's great. That's great. All right. Well, I have some individual questions for each of you that we'll talk about, and if you have something to add to our discussion, feel free. And then we have some kind of group questions that we'll talk about as well. It's going to be a lot of fun. And first, I wanted to start with Courtney. So, with On the Screen Reviews, how did you start the whole site? And you said it's been a decade. That's incredible.
Yeah, so I was actually inspired by the New Orleans Film Festival, which is now an Oscar qualifying film festival, which is huge for New Orleans. The movie I saw that really got me going was actually Melancholia by Lars von Trier, or directed by. And after I saw that, I was like, I've got to talk to someone about this. And from there, I created my own website on WordPress, and the rest is history.
Yeah, that's kind of similar to what happened to me, but it was 2014. Is when I first, because I had done blogging before, but just sort of personal blogging. And I tore the MCL in my knee in 2014. And so I had all this, I needed something to do. And so I decided to review the Disney canon. I'd always wanted to do it, but I had never done it. And that's why my website was originally called 54 Disney Reviews, because that was the plan. I was just going to review the Disney canon at the time. And that was going to be it. But I just really enjoyed it so much that I kept at it and I expanded. And so I know a little bit of that experience. And have you always lived in New Orleans?
I have.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I am a NOLA girl, ride or die.
That's great. So how do you decide what you're going to cover on your site? What's interesting to you? I'm not
very picky. I kind of choose what speaks to me. I'll cover anything from a documentary to a full-length feature. It's kind of just what gets me in the mood.
Yeah, very good. Well, Poppy, what about you? So you started your podcast during quarantine, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely a pandemic story. Do you want my pandemic story?
Yeah, please.
Okay, so here I am in spring of 2020 thinking, what the heck just happened? So I have a chronic illness. I wasn't getting out of the house a ton before all that happened, but then I was really hunkered down because this is before vaccines and before we were told to wear masks. So I was like, gosh, I need to stock up on movies and books and, fun TV shows. And I realized as I started to watch Outlander obsessively, it was like, you know what? I have loved romantic themes in books, movies, and TV shows for years. And I feel a bit ashamed to tell people how much I love Outlander. Like, I was really ashamed. Like, I got into that so much. And I thought, typical of me, how can I get over this shame? I think I will talk to the world about it. And it was something I had wanted to do. Podcasting was a long-term kind of passion of mine, but I was always afraid. And I kind of took that fear and I thought, what's the worst that can happen? I might get a few people listening to me talking and analyzing all these things that I love to read and watch. But it turned out that I don't have a massive audience, but I do have a decent size audience. And so it made me really happy. And my intro says, I talk about it without embarrassment or shame. And that's really important to me because I was sick of family and friends kind of making fun. Like, I never really read the paperbacks with the step backs with the Fabio guy, which everyone loves to make fun of. I never really read those in public, but I kept hearing about women, especially women, saying, I'm so embarrassed. I love romance, but I'm so embarrassed to say that I read it. And I just thought that's bogus. And so the way that I address that is to just talk out loud about it and give that disclaimer. And I am having a blast after a year and a half still.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean, as somebody who reviews Hallmark movies for a living, I definitely have, I've felt that at times. It's been kind of one of my goals is to try to get people to see the value in these stories. And I mean, for so long, Hollywood has only been basically making movies for 17 to 25-year-old men. Exactly. And I think that we need to see more stories. And I mean, that's one thing that places like Hallmark have been so smart to monopolize off and actually make something that people who like the women a lot, for the most part, that like that content. I don't know. Is that anything that Kate or Courtney, that you felt at all about content made for women?
Well, I grew up reading romance. Is one of the first genres I really got into. I would steal my mom's Nora Roberts books when I was 12. So, I mean, I was always around that genre.
Yeah.
So I knew there was kind of like a shame written around it for some reason, which I never understood because the stories were so good.
Yeah.
And it's like, why are people ashamed to be reading this stuff? This stuff is better than a lot of the stuff that's popular right now.
Right.
So like Tessa Dare is one of my favorite authors, and she's talking about this constantly on Twitter.
Yeah.
So about how there's this taboo about basically anything that gives women any kind of pleasure. They put they just mock it innocently. Kind of like when Burlesque came out, it was made fun of totally and it bombed, but now we're looking back at it and saying, oh my God, that was an amazing movie. Why did we talk so much crap about it? That
was an amazing movie. I'm so glad you said that. I watched it in rerun recently and I was like, was it because it was female focused? Like, why did it get such grief? I don't get it.
Well, that's part of the reason why I think it's so important to have female critics and have female voices. Not that all women like the same stuff. I don't believe that, but I think it is important to have, if Hollywood's out there saying I'm making this film or this series for women as a primary demographic, we need to have women out there saying, do they do a good job? Yeah.
And that's one thing I just want to say. That's why Bridgerton is so important, that it succeeds, because it's taking this genre and showing that it can succeed. So like when True Blood came on the scene, I thought, oh great, they're gonna start making some more series, because I have a bunch of series that I read that would make amazing TV shows. But then obviously nothing happened after that. So like I read Sherilyn Kenyon Stark Hunter series, which is kind of like a modern day take on Xena with the gods and everything. And it was supposed to be, it was bought for TV a few years ago, but it was something to do with her divorce that she wasn't allowed to go through with it or something.
Oh wow.
But apparently it's back in the works now. Like her husband was holding it up because he wanted his share of the money or something. So now it's coming back. It's going to be a lot like True Blood. Hopefully they'll give it an R rating or a PG-13 rating, because it's definitely not G material.
Yeah, and she's
Um,
such a good writer too. I
yes,
mean,
she
I
is.
can.
And her characters are so well developed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like,
Yeah, it's frustrating when basically girly or things that are made for women is like is almost like an insult. Oh, it's girly.
Mhm.
Like, no, it's actually
Yeah.
like we deserve to have good stuff made for us.
Right.
Just like anybody else.
Right.
I don't know. What do you think about that, Courtney?
I remember when, I don't know if y'all remember when Blue Valentine came out. I remember there was conversation about it having an NC-17 rating, specifically because of there was one scene where Ryan Gosling's character goes down on Michelle Williams' character. And I remember thinking, wait, didn't I just watch Black Swan and it's an R rating and it's kind of the same thing? So yeah, there are some serious discrepancies out there. So I'm glad we can talk about it.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Well, Kate, so you have been writing for I think it's the school. Is it your school paper? The
Carolinian.
Yeah. Tell us about that.
So I got so when you're in the media department, you get random emails about open positions and stuff. And a spot came up for arts and entertainment writer. So I applied for it and I got it last year, I think it was. And they gave me basically free reign on what I wanted to write about. So I wrote about shows that take on the patriarchy that are more not necessarily female friendly, but have better female characters than like past shows would. Like I wrote about Lagatha being kind of the trailblazer for women in drama period pieces because she had her own agency in that story. Like she wasn't subservient to anybody. She had her own power. She made her own choices. That was really rare to see in a show like that. I also did a piece, well, this was way back in 2017. I did an op-ed on why women military special forces are only taken quote unquote seriously when they're in comic books. Because the Black Panther just come out and everybody was so excited about the Dora Milaje. And I was looking at that, I'm like, yeah, they're amazing, but why aren't we this excited about stories about women soldiers? Because the few ones that have been out have been really successful, but they don't get the attention that they deserve. But yet every time you look around, there's like 10 for random male soldiers that did something that we've done as well. So I just do things like that. I look at roles where women made an impact, or TV shows that were different, like with Claws, how they had a lot of body inclusivity. They had a lot of diversity in their show on screen and off screen. And the writer's room was really diverse. So I talked about that and how it changed the writing and how it looked more natural than like the show and just like that just came out. So I just talked about that a lot.
I saw you're a big Marvel fan.
Yes, I am. Yes.
What do you like? What's your favorite thing about Marvel?
The escapism of it and the positivity of it. I love Stan Lee. I love his messaging. And I think that gets twisted a lot, especially on Twitter. Because the fact that he was a veteran too, and you see that within his work and everything, I don't know, I just like what he stood for.
Yeah. How do you think, to all of you, how do you think that we're doing as far as female representation in these blockbuster films that, we've had Birds of Prey, we've had Wonder Woman, we've had, Captain Marvel, we have Miss Marvel coming up. I don't know. What do you think, Courtney, about that?
So I am a Marvel fan, thanks to my ex-boyfriend. All my cats are Marvel characters. So I watched Birds of Prey, the Harley Quinn movie, kind of on a whim, and I fell in love with it so much. I bought a 24x36 poster. I was like, this is so cool. She is so kick ass, because I had watched the Suicide Squad and they kind of, over-sexualized her, made her kind of a bimbo, and just, no one really took her seriously. But then they come out with Birds of Prey with a female director, and it's a completely different Harley Quinn. So I'm a fan.
Yeah.
And it's really funny that you mentioned that, because when Birds of Prey came out, she got so much crap for not being so sexualized, from her outfits to the storyline to everything. It just got crapped on repeatedly. from mostly the male bros that were watching it.
Yeah.
I know, it's horrible because it was such a great movie that got so overlooked.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it had kind of, I think, bad timing because it was right
Pandemic,
before everything went nuts in 2020. But I was hesitant to watch it because I just had been kind of burned by comic book movies in 2019, and especially DC, and so I kind of put it off. And then I finally did watch it, and I actually thought it was pretty fun. Yeah. The action especially was really well done. I really liked the colors and the choreography, and everything was I don't know, it was a fun, energetic movie as far as I was concerned. What do you think about that, Poppy?
Well, I have to admit, the Marvel universe is not in my wheelhouse, but a funny story, a friend up in Chicago who goes to every midnight opening of a Marvel movie with her son and just loves them and kept talking to me about them. And I thought, this is so weird. She and I are so alike in many ways, but why is it that I've never known that she was such a Marvel nut? Okay, so I start catching some of these Marvel movies in rerun on cable because I'm thinking I want to bond with her over these movies and I have to figure out what's going on. And my gateway was Doctor Strange because I love Benedict Cumberbatch so much. Okay, so I watched that and I think, okay, I can really dig this because to me, this is about, it's not just brute force and violence and war between these groups. I'm not a big fan of world building. It's why I don't really read a lot of fantasy romance, but I was so into the philosophical and the metaphysical in that movie. And I was like, holy crud, I can see why people love these movies. And then, okay, I'm not going to know the characters, but then Thor went into rerun. And of course, Chris Hemsworth, woo! Okay, so there's Kat Denning. And I'm like, okay, these women in this film in particular, these female characters have a lot of agency. They are not just on the arm of a male character. They are acting and they are doing and they're thinking and they're throwing out ideas and they're talking to the men like, hey, don't be stupid. This is the most sensible thing to do. Come on. Okay. And when I watched that movie, I thought, oh, this is so refreshing because they're attractive actors. They are attractive, but that is not the whole point of them being in that story. And I loved it. And I'm sorry, I can't be more detailed because that's great. Really how I watched it. I just said to myself, wow, this is so modern. Like, yes, this is the way the direction we should be going in.
Yeah, well, especially when we got to see, if you're following the shows with WandaVision, was particularly great in that way. And you even had Darcy coming back, but what a great character they've fashioned out of Wanda and made her so interesting and nuanced and complicated. And I thought that was really great.
I have to see that.
So good.
I have so many fan theories about what I want to happen with Doctor Strange too, with her.
Okay, Kate, you know what? A friend of mine online who's way well into Marvel and everything, he accidentally misworded a DM on Twitter and it implied that Benedict was not coming back as Doctor Strange.
Oh no.
Swear, I was that invested after just seeing that first movie. I said, hold the phone. Wait, what? And he said, no, calm down. They're adding characters to the, I was like, okay. So yeah, I too am very invested in that story.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies.
I like doing this show because I hope that it now that we've done, this is a 2-year anniversary, which is so exciting to me.
Congrats.
I thought, I'll just do it a couple of episodes because basically in 2019, I got super, super badly cyberbullied because of my review of Shazam. Death threats, the whole madness. It was awful.
No.
Yeah, the FBI had to be called in. There was a mass shooting
my
threat. It was nuts. Yeah.
Oh.
And they had to notify Warner Brothers.
What?
Yeah, it was
You know
crazy.
what?
And
What?
and yeah, totally. And I was the first female critic to give a rotten on Shazam, and I was one of the first critics period to do it. I think there were 4 total when I had posted mine, and people just went crazy, and it definitely shook my confidence. Like I thought that I was pretty pretty strong because I'd been blogging and creating content for a long time. But there's just something about that experience that is so intense when you get targeted, particularly by these groups that send their goons out to get people that are. There was this whole group called F Marvel Tards that came after me, and it was just a mess. And so I found it really shook my confidence and my confidence in putting my opinion out there. And I mean, that's part of the reason why I waited so long with Birds of Prey, was because I didn't want to deal with all of that again with DC and with, anyway, so I started this show in 2020 to try to kind of get my confidence back again and hear from the experiences of other people and other female film critics and content creators, podcasters, things like that. And it's been such a great experience, been so wonderful to realize that you're not alone, that other people have experienced these things. And so yeah, that's kind of the catalyst for starting all
Yeah,
this.
Rachel, I'm so glad you told us that, because I do band together with female podcasters specifically for that reason.
Yeah.
Because even if it doesn't go to that extreme extent, and I'm so sorry that happened to you, even if it doesn't, there's definitely a feeling like, you know what, you need to sit down in the podcasting industry if you are not a man. And I just reject that outright. It makes me just want to stand up more. So thank you for inviting me here. And I'm really glad that we're all doing this.
I was going to ask you, Poppy, your episodes, are they scripted? Do you write it out?
Yes, they are scripted, and I'm aiming for an invisible script. And I think I get there sometimes I don't. Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
But I do need that because I don't want off the cuff. I have certain things I want to say, and bullet points I tried that in the beginning and it didn't quite get me there. So there's a certain flow to my episodes, and I don't know if any of you have listened, but I intersperse film and TV show clips in with my commentary on the theme, and that flow introducing clips, that's kind of tricky if you're just trying to do it off the cuff. So yeah, it is scripted.
Definitely. Well, one question I like to ask is, do you feel optimistic about the film industry or pessimistic about the state of cinema? Because I think there's an argument to be made to be optimistic, because we have so many more outlets for people to showcase their films than we ever had before. So many different groups can be represented. So many different films can be put out there, whether it's there's so many different streaming services, and even a film that gets into the theaters with festivals and everything like that, that there are outlets that there just weren't before. So I think there are reasons to be optimistic about the state of film, and we're seeing more diversity, we're seeing more representation, so that's great. But obviously there's reasons to be pessimistic too, because we have cinema is still struggling, is still getting back on its feet after being closed down. And we have, everything has to be an IP, everything has to be tied to something that we knew before, a cinematic universe, that kind of a thing. But I don't know. What do you think, Courtney, about that?
I am optimistic. I do think that there is room, and there's being given more room for female representation. I know my only knowledge is New Orleans Film Festival. I don't follow many of the other festivals since I'm not there, but I know for a fact that I think it's over 50% of the films submitted. I'm not going to guess the percentage, but it's predominantly female submitted. And another percentage, a large percentage of that is minority female filmmakers. So I do see, I do have hope. And I hope that, once it gets past the initial first film festivals, that, the bigger production companies can take them on. So I think it's really up to them.
Yeah. Now, what do you think, Poppy? Are you optimistic?
Well, I'm the romance podcaster, and I was going to say, I don't know if I'm that optimistic, but here's the reason why. So a theme of mine lately is I am going to search for representation of people over the age of 40 being in relationships, falling in love, having sex. Okay. That's my little mission, because I am over 40 and I like to be hopeful about myself. And so I seek out shows and movies, and I look at the credits, and I try to find female directors. I try to find shows that have writers' rooms with women in them. And I sometimes am really scraping. Now, that could just be my own shortcomings as a researcher, but I keep asking my audience and saying, if you have seen something good that I should cover, let me know. But it has been hard going sometimes. And I know that, I think it's about how you define success. Is success a big Catherine Bigelow kind of movie with a huge budget behind it? Or is it simply getting a female slanted, a female gaze story out there, no matter how you can do that, no matter on what scale you can do that? I tend to feel like, let's just get them out there on whatever scale. But I think some people would say, but we deserve the big budgets too, which is of course true. So I'm just conflicted. I wouldn't say that I feel optimistic, but I guess stuff is still being made that I love. Like, what is the Pamela Adlon series? Brighter Things, Bigger Things? No, gosh, what's the name? I think it's called Better Things. Thank you. You watch that show and you think, I don't know if we would have ever seen anything like this on the small screen even 10 years ago, but I just love it. It's so female centric. Anyway, I guess I might be in the minority here. I try to stay positive though. I try to seek them out, know.
Kate, what do you think?
So I know I talk about Marvel a lot, but the second phase of Marvel is bringing in a whole bunch of new movies that are centered around the female leads. They're having more representation in front and behind the screens. So especially the new Thor movie, it's going to have Natalie Portman's character be the lead. We're not exactly sure what she's going to be, if she's going to be taking over into the Lady Thor, or what they're going to be doing yet. But it's a highly driven female show. And then you have WandaVision 2, I think, is coming out some point. You have Blade coming out, which is more minority representation, both in front and behind the screen. With, I can never pronounce his name. I'm sorry. The guy from Moonlight.
Yeah. And there was Kate Bishop in Hawkeye. That was awesome. It was really great.
Another even Black Widow.
Yeah, another really great under the radar show is a superhero show is Naomi on CW. So good. People should really good show. I don't watch the CW shows in general, but I started watching because my friend.
I had a bad experience with Julie Peck.
What's that?
Julie Peck shows.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. And originals and stuff like that. So
yeah. Well, and I am hopeful about Bridgerton, because it has been so well received, that we will get even more like that. They had Sanditon. I know you were more of a fan of it, Poppy, than I was. I felt like it was definitely trying to get that edginess of Bridgerton with still trying to be PBS, and I don't think it worked. Especially, I mean, that last season.
Oh, the cliffhanger.
It was so ridiculous.
Okay, I was going to storm the lobby of PBS with a pitchfork. I swear to God, if they hadn't brought that back, I was like, y'all, I can't even tell you how angry I'm going to be. Yeah.
That's how Sense8 fans felt when they got canceled on that cliffhanger as well.
But I think, I mean, we are seeing some improvement. I mean, look, the last 2 Best Director winners were both women. So I think that's, you know, that's
by the way,
a good thing.
Sorry.
Yes.
And where I think there's, as you were saying, there are a lot of, you know, films and shows, and I mean, we want it to be done well, but I think you almost have to have a lot of content in order to have it done well, right? So you're gonna have the patronizing stuff, the not as good stuff. It's almost like I want it all to be made, so then we get the good stuff.
Yeah, let them get it out of their systems, and then we can move along.
So my next question is, what's a trend in movies or television that you are excited about? One thing that it doesn't have to be essentially female related, but one trend I'm very excited about, because I love animation. Animation is even more than Hallmark movies. I love animation. And one thing that's really exciting to me is that we're getting these movies that have this hybrid CGI and 2D animated look behind them, which I just love. And it's definitely something that came from Into the Spider-Verse, and because that was just so incredible, that movie. And we're seeing it now with a lot of other films, and something like Klaus was one that was gorgeous. Mitchell's versus the Machines had some of that, and we got just this month we have The Bad Guys coming out, which has that kind of blended aesthetic, which I just love, and I think it's so beautiful. And we're starting to see, I think, some real artistry in our mainstream animation, where for a long time, because of Pixar's success, we weren't really seeing, well, I don't want to say we weren't seeing artistry, because we certainly were, but we were seeing lifelike artistry, right? As opposed to really seeing the artist and the animator's palette and unique point of view. It was like, it just had to look really realistic. And that was the big, which is incredible. And I appreciate that, but I'm just excited about animation right now. I think we're in a really great time, and we've been able to keep going with animation throughout the entire pandemic. It never was able to, it never had to stop. And so that's, I just think, really cool.
Okay, Rachel, say more about what should I look for? The 2D aspect I wasn't aware of, but I did see Klaus, and I was like, every frame is like a painting.
Gorgeous, yeah.
Oh, I loved it. Okay, so tell me, what do I look for?
So CG animation is like what you saw with, say, Shrek, DreamWorks, you know, that kind of, it's created on a computer, Toy Story, all of that. Whereas, and it has a 3D aesthetic to it. And so these hybrid is like, it's still made on a computer, but it has a flatter appearance. And so they can do a little bit more, like the emphasis isn't on make this look as real as possible, which to me is really cool. Like, did you see Mitchell's versus Machines?
No, when did that come out?
Good. Last year. It was one of my favorites. So good.
I have to look that up.
Yeah. Did any of the rest of you, did you see Mitchell's? No?
No. I remember it, but I never saw it.
Oh, it's so good. Kate, did you see it?
No. What was it called again?
The Mitchells versus the Machines. It's on Netflix. It was really, really good.
I'm just now getting into anime because I'm taking a class in school on Studio Ghibli. So I'm going through all their work right now.
Oh,
and Howl's Moving Castle is my absolute favorite right now.
Oh, that's gorgeous!
What a fun class that would be. I would love that.
It's so much fun, and it's
where do Where do I sign?
I know. Me too.
Yeah.
Have you seen Studio Ghibli, Courtney?
I have.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite?
Love me some Cat Bus.
Oh yeah. Oh, and it's the I think somebody was saying it's like there's an anniversary this year for Totoro. It's so good.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I that too. I don't remember.
I'm trying to remember that it's like the 35th anniversary or something like that. Yeah. But I love such gentle, beautiful movies. I highly recommend. If you haven't seen Poppy, if you haven't seen any of the Studio Ghibli films, they're on HBO Max. You can watch all of them.
I've definitely seen Howl's Moving Castle. What was the other famous one?
Princess Mononoke.
Yeah, Princess Mononoke and Spirited Away. And
Spirited Away.
Yeah.
Yes.
And almost all of his movies have Miyazaki have a female protagonist at the core. I love Kiki's Delivery Service. It's so good.
Kiki's is my favorite.
It's so good. But yeah. Let's see here. What do either Poppy or Kate have a trend that you're excited about?
Yeah, I do. I'm just noticing a lot on TV shows lately. There's more women over 35 on them starring, or even over 27.
Yeah.
There's a show on ABC right now called Single Drunk Female, where she's coming back from being in rehab and she's trying to get her life back together. And and her friend's plus size and just amazing in her own agency, and it's just another great show. And I'm loving that we're seeing trends where women are allowed to be messy again. We're not perfect and not supposed to be like this perfect little doll or whatever. Like if you see that, you see the show Claws, you see the show Pose on FX. It's just like digging into the psyche of women instead of just being window dressing or just being action stars. We're trying to see what actually makes them tick again.
Yeah,
I'm really excited about that.
That's one thing that's really cool about Hallmark movies, actually, is that because their stable of actresses are kind of older in their 30s and even 40s at this point, that most of them are about women that are, a lot of them have lost their spouses in some way, divorced, whatever, and then they're finding love again, and they do a great job of allowing the female actresses, to not only be involved in obviously the acting, but also the producing and creation of the content in a way that a lot of other networks don't have. So I think that's
talk a lot about Clouds just because I love it so much. It was on
what network is that on?
I want to say TNT or TBS, same one as Animal Kingdom.
Okay.
So it started back a few years ago now. It just finished its 5th season. And it's one of the few shows where all the leads are all over 35. It had Carrie Preston, Nietzsche Nash, Jennifer
yes,
Judy Reyes in it. And oh my God, it was just so good. It was just,
if there was a trend that I don't like, it's just that there's just so much content that it's impossible to watch it all. I mean, I feel like every day somebody says to me, "You got to watch the show."
Yes.
And I'm like,
yes.
I've also been very burned about shows getting canceled after 2 seasons.
Yes.
So I'm really reluctant to start a new show. But I saw the trailer for this show and it just took me from the very first second I watched it, and I was just in love with it.
And I'll hear about something, and I it's the first I've ever heard of it. It's already got like 4 or 5 seasons. I'm like, what? I didn't even know that was a thing.
Right.
Like unless it's like Marvel or HBO, there's very little advertising for these shows outside of their immediate channels. You never get a chance to hear about them until later on.
Yeah,
exactly.
Like Schitt's Creek, like I never even heard about it until it got on Netflix, and I absolutely loved it, and I binged it during the pandemic, like all the rest of us did.
And Kim's Convenience.
Ever since.
That's
another one where it was like main
so
characters
good.
over 30 and stuff. So
I love Kim's Convenience so much. Poppy, what about you? What do you think?
Oh, you know what trends I love, and I don't know if they're brand new, but I've covered them on the podcast. I love sex and body positivity. Like all day long, I watched Shrill. Have you all watched Shrill?
Yes.
Okay,
It wasn't-
Kate, right?
I'm so gutted it got canceled.
Oh, but at least it got what, 6 seasons, I think, or 4 or
3.
something.
No, it got
Oh,
3.
was it only 3?
Yeah.
Okay, well, that show, see, I felt like the writing team, the producers, the director, they all decided, you could tell there was the arc of that series was, we are never shying away from the idea. First of all, main character calls herself fat, and we are never shying away from the fact that it's not, oh, good girlfriend, live your best life. It wasn't like that, right? She was a character with agency, smarts, ambition. She just happened to be fat. And so that is how she went through the series. And it was absolutely refreshing. Who's the actress, the Saturday Night Live actress? Why do I always forget her name? Who played
She's
the
on
yeah.
SNL. Not Kate McKinnon.
no, it's Allie.
Allie. Yeah.
What's the last name? Anyway, okay. So she
Her
was
roommate too was plus size as well. And so
yes.
you had both women being plus size, which is really rare.
Okay, but what I also loved, and I included another show in my sex positivity episode. What I also loved was the normalization of women having libidos and sleeping with whoever they damn well please. And there was not a whiff of slut shaming. It was just, this is what women do too. Women have libidos and they enjoy sleeping with people. And I loved how the show handled that. And the show, have you all, this is all small screen right now, but have you all ever seen the mumblecore TV show Easy, which had many seasons? Okay, it's sort of an anthology. So a lot of the same characters come back and they're just it's different scripts, different scenarios. Well, Mark Maron of WTF with Mark Maron starred in one with, oh God, the names are escaping me. They played an older couple who had had a history, but they ended up having a fling, kind of reconnecting after many years. And they get up the next day and it's like, ouch, oh, ow. Okay, I'm so stiff and my hair is a wreck and I'm dying for coffee. And honey, I'd love to talk to you, but I cannot talk to you until I've eaten and taken my pills. It was that kind of thing. And I thought, yes, our souls at night, give me more healthy libidos at every age. This is what I live for. It's what I want. So I feel like there is stuff out there now, if that's what you're looking for. Not a lot, but it is being made in a very deliberate way, and I love it.
All right. Let's talk about our unpopular opinions. And this is, like I said, sort of the catalyst for starting this whole series was my very unpopular opinion that I had and kind of the fallout of it. And so I kind of like talking about when you had an unpopular opinion. It doesn't necessarily have to be a negative one. You could like something that everybody else didn't like. But what's that like when you get that pushback online, whether it's just social media or whatever? And what's that like with just having an unpopular opinion? And what about you, Courtney? What do you think? What is an unpopular opinion you've had?
Coda sucked.
Oh.
Which one?
Coda.
Oh,
That was,
yeah.
you know, it's hard for me to watch a movie like The Sound of Metal the year before and then like watch Coda and be like, that's the best picture. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I mean, I know like Riz Ahmed was not, you know, legally blind, but there were like certain aspects of Coda that were just completely unrelated to that, you know, like just like picking apart like film aspects of it. And I told that to a friend. He was like, don't say that, you're going to get canceled.
Oh.
Do you feel like because it won Best Picture, your opinion, like that if it had just been like a movie out there, it wouldn't have been.
I went into it blind. I mean, like, no, whatever. I went into it. I didn't I didn't read reviews. Like, I only knew that it had to deal with like the aspects of the blind community and how people were
deaf community.
Oh, what is wrong with me? Yes.
Okay.
So I don't think it's influenced by the Oscars at all, but it did hold a certain caliber that I was expecting it to reach, that for me, it just didn't make the mark. So that is my unpopular opinion. But like you, Rachel, I have had movies in the past where I did write reviews and people came for me. So that's why I kind of, like you now, kind of stray away from it and unpopular opinion, because I'm literally scared as to what people will do.
Gosh.
It's so sad. It's so frustrating. You should be able to not like Coda to your heart's content. We all should be able to have our opinions.
Yes.
One Best Picture nominee that I did not care for was Bridge of Spies. I just thought it was so mediocre, and that I felt like the only reason that it got nominated was because it was Spielberg.
Okay.
But there's so many plot points that are introduced at the beginning of the film that are completely dropped. It's like half an espionage movie, half a courtroom drama, neither of them done well, in my opinion. I just thought it was not good. I didn't like it.
Yeah. And why not? It's a free country. Why can't you just say that?
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes.
We should say that. And, like Rachel, I get nervous.
Yeah. I don't blame you. Yeah, go on.
Well, Poppy, what about you? What's an unpopular opinion you have?
Mine is very mild, but on my pod, so I usually only cover what I feel I can be genuinely positive about. I just don't want to give any airspace to something that I don't like, right? I want to spend time with things I love. But I just interviewed a guy, and we were talking about Richard Curtis rom-coms. They're canon at this point. But we both said out loud, I don't like Love Actually. I don't like it at all. Like, I don't really get. Kate, are you saying you don't like it either?
No, I don't. That's actually not an unpopular opinion right now, to be honest. A lot of people are saying they don't like it.
I like it, but I think certain of the plot threads are better than others.
I agree with that. But
I like it. I'm not married to it though.
Okay. Okay, this is good. And what I was going to say is I have been fortunate that I don't get a ton of engagement despite a call to action every episode asking for that. Come find me on Twitter, find me at confessionsofaclosetromantic.com, whatever. Talk to me, people. But they don't. I have listeners from all over the world, and I'm wondering if English is a second language and maybe that's the issue. However, I have been fortunate because when you two say that all you did was say there was a cultural thing that you did not quite care for and you back up your opinions and people come for you, the world is just nutty. So I think that's all to say that I don't have the engagement to come after me. Thank God. I mean, but I always do a goofy disclaimer.
Neither did I. They found me.
What?
They sought me out.
What? Okay, wait, but were you, did they find it on a Google search or how did they find the reviews?
One person retweeted it and then two people retweeted it and then a lot of people saw it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's horrible.
And you get added on lists and they come for you. And
Kate, what about you? What's an unpopular opinion you've had?
I have a couple, but I'll stick with Bridgerton. So I read the books and I love the books. So I know they're going way off book at this point. They're completely destroying canon pretty much.
Yeah, they are.
And what they're doing with Penelope, I'm not exactly liking.
I agree.
What they're taking the character in. I think they saw how popular she was in the first one.
Yep.
And rewrote the second one to focus more on her than the couple itself.
Yeah.
Which I know it was going to be a slow burn, but they left out so many key scenes and that were pivotal in the book that it just wasn't the book anymore.
Well, I mean, season 2.
Shonda Rhimes, it's not going to be the book. I get that. Trust me. But they left out key, very pivotal parts.
Season 2 was not as strong as season 1, in my opinion. Yeah,
I mean,
I agree.
I love Penelope's book, but like at this point, they built her up so much. If they go do Benedict next, people are going to get mad that they're not focusing on Penelope. And Penelope's book isn't for like another 2 seasons.
Right.
So we're going to have another 2 more seasons of Lady Whistledown and Eloise fighting and all this.
Yeah, that got a little bit much. But also, Kate, don't you feel like those books at this point are so popular that I think it was always going to be a risk them adapting them. And the idea that we all know that TV is a different thing. We all get that. But
Yeah.
there are certain elements that you kind of wish they would have just asked a romance
even if
fan.
you take everything else out, we needed that B scene. We needed the scene where they got married. Like we kind of got it, but not to the point where they had to get married.
Well,
Right.
it's just season 2 felt a lot safe. Felt a lot safer than season 1.
Than on the couple, and that was a big problem for me.
But I did think they had great chemistry, and I still overall enjoyed it. But yeah, I see what you're saying.
I would have loved to see more of that. Somebody broke it down on Twitter about how much time they actually spent as a couple together, or even on the screen together at the same time, and it was less than an hour total. They compare that to like Simon and Daphne, who were in every episode together.
Yeah,
obviously.
Well, and
I mean,
pretty much everything with the Featheringtons was
But I mean, in the books, the 4th book is from the Featherington's perspective, because Penelope, and I'm wondering if they're just going to skip season 3 and not do Benedict and do Penelope, because they built so much up with her. And the fact that they wouldn't confirm it makes me kind of wonder if they are doing that. Well, they're like, if we tell you what season 3 is going to be, it's going to be a spoiler. And I'm like, how is it going to be a spoiler if it's not Benedict? So.
Well, let's finish off by talking about something that we've made that we're proud of, whether it's an episode or something you've written or whatever you want to talk about that you think was good that you made. And what do you think, Courtney?
So I've kind of become super millennial, and I have migrated a little to TikTok and started use talks and then sending that to different platforms and see how that does. And people actually think I'm funny. So reception has always been very positive. So, I still want to continue writing, but it's just a different platform to kind of express yourself on and still get to talk about movies.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. What about you, Poppy? What's something you've made that you're proud of?
I tell you, every episode after I'm done is my baby, and I love it the most. But the one that I'm most proud of is the episode called Learning from Romance Part 1. So I got to a certain point in the pod where I thought, wow, I'm changing as a person. And that's as a result of mostly reading romance, but also watching it. Shows like Easy that are so sex and body positive. And so I talked about how I discovered I was a demisexual, and it's a sexual orientation that was presented in a romance novel. It was something I've lived all my life and did not realize I was until I saw it on the pages of a romance novel. And I thought, that is an incredible power. This is not a throwaway genre. This is not a fluffy genre. This is these are books where you can learn a lot about life and in a very positive, accepting way. So I was really proud of myself to be able to say that out loud, and that I even got there with the pod.
Great. That's great. Kate, what about you?
Well, obviously being published for my school newspaper is really exciting for me to see my name out there. And then I do have 2 pieces that I wrote individually on my own, just because I wanted to talk about them. Was obviously the military op-ed piece, which got a lot of traction, was one of my most popular pieces, just because a lot of people were relating to it, because there's not a lot of female representation for women veterans on screen. And then the other piece I really liked was a piece I did on Lagertha, and how she just kind of from Vikings, and how she stood out so much in a show that was predominantly male and had such a lasting impact on just the genre and just fans in general, and just like how everything about her was different, from her costuming to her storyline to all of that.
That's great. Well, one that I am proud of recently, I did a compare contrast review on my blog, comparing Morbius to the Bollywood film RRR, which I loved. RRR, it was so great. I loved the director, his SS Rajamouli. I loved his previous films, Bahubali 1 and 2, and they're just so, like, they're such a spectacle, and they're so crazy and fun, and the music is great and just special. They're special. And I'd seen Morbius and RRR on the same day. So the contrast between something that's, I didn't hate Morbius as much as everyone else seems to, but I certainly didn't give it a positive review. And the contrast between something so bland, so run of the mill, so, just to this thing that's just so energetic and full of life. It was really pretty amazing to watch. So I thought that was a good review that I wrote. So there we go. Well, thank you so much to all of you, all three of you, for coming and for having this great conversation. I really enjoyed it, and I appreciate you giving your time. And why don't you each tell us a little bit about where we can find you? Starting Courtney, how can people find your content?
Yeah, let's just focus on Twitter right now. You can find me at Filmvibes, and that's Bibes.
Nice. Yeah, that's a good handle. You lucked out. You found it. That was a good handle. What about you, Poppy? Where can people find you?
People can find my podcast at confessionsofaclosetromantic.com. And I'm always on Twitter at Poppy_confesses.
And what about you, Kate?
So you can find me on the school paper, The Carolinian, under my name in the arts and entertainment section. It's Kate McCrea. And then I have a website called Kate Reviews, and it's on Wix. You just type in Kate Reviews and it'll come up.
Thank you so much to all of you. I really appreciate it. And let us know if you're listening, what you think about all the things we talked about. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Make sure you check out the playlist with all 24 episodes of Female Film Critics Panel. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews, all over social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. So check that out. And then also make sure you're following the Hallmarkies podcast. We've got lots of fun stuff going on over there. And please, if you're listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews, 5 stars. That helps so much. And if you are watching and listening on YouTube, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. And thanks again, ladies. Really appreciate it. We'll talk hopefully again another time. Bye, everyone.
Thank you.